A racing video was long overdue, so here it is. We're going to be going through how to evaluate form of a race and put odds to it. So hopefully this gets you in the right thought process. Let's crack on. How to evaluate racing form and create betting odds. So there's your content table. We're going to be talking about the race, how to evaluate it, the considerations that you'll need to take on board, formulating an opinion, create an order, and then make the betting. The race itself, we're going to need to take on board the track, whether it's tight, galloping, undulating, right-handed, left-handed. The ground is an important factor. It's going to be expected at the time. The distance of the race, the class of the race, and the number of runners in a race. We will need to go through the evaluation process. We'll need to look at all the horses' form, their ability, will they improve, are they exposed? The handicap marks, they could be well handicapped, they could be badly handicapped, what to expect and what's happened in the past. As far as conditions go, then we're going to be looking at the course, the distance, track suitability and the ground, etc. The race proximity for a runner is just reappearing after a long layoff. You're going to need to see that it goes well fresh. If it's running after it's just had a week since his last race, then we're going to need to see that he can take his back-to-back races well. And then, of course, stable form, especially at the beginning of the season. Now, these are the very basics, but it gives you something to work on. As far as the considerations go, change of stable. Now, especially if it moved from a lesser performing stable to a better stable. If it went the other way, then I'd be more sort of worried and, typically want to lay it to bigger odds. As far as additional help, that could be first-time blinkers, visa, cheek pieces, and so on. Medical, I'm sort of really referring to sort of a recent wind operation. He's had a wind operation since his last run that could help it. The pecking order. Now, if the stable's got two runners in a race, you might see this through the jockey bookings. One of the top jockeys is riding one of the runners, then obviously it's going to be a bit shorter in the betting. But also, it's been riding something else in the race and switched to that horse, and that's a significant factor. At least that's the way they see it anyway. And then, as far as the travelling goes, distance, right? Some horses take it well. I mean, if obviously the connections are quite happy to pay to go a long distance, then it could be a sign that they expect to need that track and to win, or it could be the opposite as well. That horses don't like traveling long distance, even though most of them are okay with it. Now we're going to need to formulate a flexible opinion, and by flexible I mean things are changing, it's evolving all the time, so we need to bear that in mind. So we'll have to evaluate what we mentioned before. Then we're going to have to go through trainer reputation. Some of the sort of hidden trainers, should I say, like the Prescotts and the Vinicius Williams, they tend to pop up with big prize winners now and then when you least expect them. They've been holding something back. So trainer reputation is something. Any type of contingencies like the weather changes, non-runners, information on that. Bookie bias. Now we know that it's like in football, they do like certain trainers, especially with the wags talking a lot. So bear that in mind. Bookie bias is something, and then you could also probably consider inconsistencies of the horse. I mean, some they'll win and then run poorly for 10 races, then just spring another surprise out of the blue. So you might not be wanting to lay sort of 50 to 1 on such a thing. So just consider that. Right? And then we're going to be doing creating an order. Now, we have an opinion, and we've got to sort of put that together, which order we think is going to come in. And when I say the betting and not the finish, now, some horses are going to be more fancied to come in the top 3 place than others, even though they're shorter in the betting. So we're trying to sort of figure out on the win side of things. Finally, we're going to talk about making the odds. Now, we're going to do this to like a 100% book price, or as near as we can get to it. And we're going to ask the question, what type of odds would you be willing to lay? And what type of odds would you be willing to bet at? It's not always for every runner. Some you'll probably just put a line through because you don't want to lay or bet them, should I say. So you keep side notes, and also try to envisage the layer odds, because this could give you sort of having a plan a little bit in advance, right? This is for guide purposes only. So that's about that. If you do like this video though, I would ask you that you do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, get notified of all new videos coming up. Yeah, the race I'm going to choose is this 220. You can see there's just 5 runners, so it makes it easy to follow. It's also a novice handicap chase, these races that I particularly like at this time of the season. So we'll just click on it, open it up. Here you go. You can see that it's a 2-mile race. You can see the grade, it's a class 4, the prize money, the number of runners, it's good ground, and there's going to be 12 fences to be jumped. So if we now look at the card itself, we can see the contestants. You've got the name of the horse, obviously the age, its weight, its handicap mark, the jockey, the trainer, and yes, and the form is on the left hand side. So if we click on Javar Talon, the number 1, this is quite interesting, right? It's switching to fences after racing over hurdles after just 4 runs. So that would, to me, to suggest that it's going to be a natural jumper. Also interesting is that it's rated actually 119, but for some reason or the other, I can't even figure it out. It's got 115 today, so it's got £4 less than that, right? If we have a look at Jane Williams, the trainer, we just click on her. She had 1 winner from her last 8 runners, because we've got to look at stable form. It's very important at this time of the season, the beginning. We've just got to see if horses, if stables have got their horses running into form or not. She had 1 winner from a sort of last 8 runners, right, 11-2 there. If we have a look at the others, it didn't really run fantastically well, but there is something else to sort of commend this horse, and that is that it did win first time up last season, right? So we do know that it goes pretty well fresh, right? We know that it's nicely treated for his debut. We know that it should be a natural chaser, and yes, it's obviously going to be one of the principles for a race like this. If we click on the number 2 from Venetia Williams, Now or Never, you will see that it actually changed stables to Venetia Williams at the end of 2023, and it raced 4 times to the new stable. Now, there must be something wrong with the horse, because it pulled up, finished last of 4, and then 10th of 11th for this trainer. It was always massive odds, so not fancied. The one advantage that it has got is that it's dropped from 126 to 112 in the meantime. It also did run in a chase in France before it came to the UK, but it was on very soft ground. So, the ground's an issue, its form's an issue. We don't know if it's recovered, but we do know that this trainer is particularly good at getting chasers ready. And she did have a win the other day from 3 other runners, and this horse did win its first time up ever race. So that's something to sort of take into consideration. It's a sort of a bit of a dark one, let's just put it like that, yeah. As we go on to Valadon, what's automatically interesting on this one is that it's just a 4-year-old. 4-year-olds rarely go over fences, but when they do, the great thing is they receive weight from the others. So you can see it's called a weight for age. The also of it's actually rated £4 inferior, but it's giving it £4. So you can see there's an £8 weight for age allowance. If we click on Valandon, we know that it's trained by Harry Fry. Harry Fry is a top trainer, had 2 winners from his last 8 runners this season. This horse was always quite well fancied, 2-1, 1-3, 85-40. We should sort of look at the odds there. Won 2 of his 4 hurdles, making a very quick transition to chasers. Must be a total natural jumper, otherwise it wouldn't be doing it at such an early stage. It's basically handicapped on just 1 race from last season where it clocked to 116, right? So also that's pretty strong. This one is the other one of the principles that I would see at the moment, right, as we start to put them in some type of order. As we go down to One Way or T'other, this is a bit older, 6 years old. It ran a few more times. It's still switching, relatively inexperienced. It ran in 5 hurdles, didn't win 1, so went chasing. So we do have some chasing form to go on here. And that's from the 6th of May on good ground, also over 2 miles. As we can click on the horse itself, right, you can see that it came 3rd, beaten 3.75 lengths, right? It made a couple of jumping errors. The vet said he lost his shoe during the race. Other than that, it was just a pretty well standard race. The profile of the horse suggests that it must find a race eventually, but this could probably be a little bit too good for it, right? Because even though its handicap mark's fallen to 107 from an opening mark of sort of 115, right, it's obviously done nothing special, and that's for a reason. The trainer, Toby Laws, 0 from 8, if we actually click on that, this is interesting, because what you've got to look at, you don't just look at whether a trainer's been getting the winners. You've got to look at the odds of the horses and what's sort of expected of them. So, you know, obviously if it's like 100 to 1 and it's pulled up, it was expected, you know, it was like a no-oper. So you can see there you had like 3 horses pulled up, another one finished last, 4th of 6, but beaten a long way. You know, you would say that the stable's a little bit slow sort of coming to hand, and yeah, I mean, that's a slight worry. And as we move on to the final one, Lucky Luger, again, only raced sort of a handful of times, did start his life in point to points, which suggests that he will be a chaser in the future, but there's nothing there in the form is that sort of suggests that it is going particularly well. Pulled up, came 3rd, came 5th, pulled up, but more importantly, look at those odds. It was always massive odds, and yeah, I mean, even though that the handicap has dropped it from 108 to 13 for today, you know, you've got to sort of surmise that it was you know, it's for a good reason, that the horse is absolutely showing nothing. It's pulled up in 4 from its last 6 races, sorry, 5 from its last 7 races, and then was well beaten on the others. Now, there was a little bit of promise there at 50 to 1 when he finished 3rd, and Matt Shepherd is a good trainer. He did have a win the other day, but you'd have to start thinking to yourself, well, this is going to be one of the outsiders for sure, right? So if we just have a quick you know, look at the field again, we're going to have to put these into some kind of order, right, as we sort of come up with some betting forecasts for them. So, I mean, obviously we see 2 clear of the others, and that is the 1 and 3, Javot Allen and Valadon. Then we would be, you know, sort of a little bit sceptical about the Venetia Williams horse, because who trains it, and if it did bounce back, obviously it would have a very attractive mark. One way the other looks exposed, and Lucky Luger looks like being the outside. Then we wanted to give you our idea of the betting odds. So there you go. We put Javert Allen in at 5 to 4. That's a 44.4% chance. Right, now or never, 12 to 1. That's 7.7% chance. Valadon 2 to 1, one way or t'other 13 to 2, and Lucky Loser 80 to 1. Now that comes to just a little bit short of 100%, so 99.8 something, right? This is what we'd actually bet at, the odds that we would take. Now we'd only be interested in betting 2 horses in that race, and that would be the 2 principals. We don't fancy the others at all, and so we'd be quite happy to take the 13 to 8 if Javert Allen went to those type of odds. We might even take a little bit less, you know, after further reflection. And Valadon, if we saw the 11 to 4, we'd be keen to get stuck in, unless of course it went to post pretty badly or something happened along the way. As far as laying, Javert Allen, the only time I would want to lay it is if it went sort of below even money. 4 to 5 I would call at this stage. I wouldn't be interested in laying now or never, for that reason what I mentioned in the video, that we don't know about Venetia Williams also. I tend to swerve them, yeah. As far as Valadon goes, I would just lay it at 6 to 4 because I see it as a clear second best, one way or the other. 11 to 2, to be quite honest with you, I'd probably even lay it at 13 to 2, even though I'm sort of expecting those odds, because I just don't fancy it at all. And Lucky Loser, well, I mean, anything can happen in racing, 80 to 1 shots win, but I just don't see it, but I wouldn't be interested in laying it either. Hopefully that video showed you how my thought process works when it comes to looking at races and going through them. But I would also suggest that you go through things like at the races and get the visuals, you know, racing TV, watch replays of races, get a feeling for the horses themselves, right? And then you'll soon get a good understanding. It'll take a while to get into the process of it, but once you do, it's going to be relatively easy to form your own opinions as far as racing goes. That's it for now. You know, you're through to boot camp again. We'll catch you in the next one soon. Take care. Bye-bye.